I was just waiting for the bus, officer. Is there a problem?
Your identification, now.
Is there a reason you're loitering, sir?
I was just leaving, officer.
Tires hissed. Red and blue lights flashed once. Just once. Hey, the officer said. You. Stop right there. Miguel froze. He felt eyes on his back. He turned slowly. Yes, officer. His voice stayed calm. He had learned that tone years ago. Where you headed? To work. The officer looked him up and down. Boots. Jacket. Brown skin. Accent. Work where? Community college. The officer smirked. Doing what? Miguel hesitated. That pause was enough. You got ID? Miguel reached into his pocket. Slow. Careful. The officer stepped closer. Too close. Let me guess, he said. Construction. Kitchen. I'm an instructor, Miguel said. The officer laughed. Not loud. Sharp. Sure you are. People pretended not to watch. Phones stayed down. Heads turned away. The officer's voice dropped. You know why I stopped you? Miguel shook his head. Because we've had complaints about illegals hanging around this stop. That word hit like a slap. Miguel swallowed. Officer, I'm a legal permanent resident. The officer leaned in and whispered the line that made Miguel's chest tighten. Then you won't mind if I check everything. The cruiser door opened behind them. And Miguel realized this wasn't a stop. It was a test. Sit tight, the officer said. Miguel didn't move. I'd rather stand, officer. The officer's jaw tightened. That wasn't a suggestion. Miguel sat on the cold curb. His lunch bag tipped over. An apple rolled away. Hands where I can see them. Miguel placed them on his knees. You nervous? No. Because you look nervous. Miguel breathed in. Slow. Counted. 100% legal, he said quietly. The officer pulled out a notepad. Took his time. Name. Miguel Alvarez. Spell it. Miguel did. The officer wrote slowly. Too slowly. Country of birth. Mexico. There it was. The pause. The shift. So you admit you're not from here? I admit where I was born, Miguel said. That's different. The officer looked up. Careful. Miguel nodded. Yes, sir. People walked past. Shoes splashed through puddles. No one stopped. You said you're an instructor, the officer said. What do you teach? Civics. Immigration law basics. The officer laughed again. That's rich. Miguel felt heat rise in his neck. He pushed it down. You got proof of that? My ID is in your hand. The officer flipped the card. Front. Back. Heh. Community college. He leaned closer. You train people how to get papers. I teach lawful process, Miguel said. I teach rights. The officer straightened. His voice went flat. Step off the curb. Miguel stood. Turn around. Miguel turned. For what reason? Don't ask questions. Miguel felt the click of cuffs hover in the air. They never came. Not yet. The officer stepped back. Relax. I'm not arresting you. Then why am I being detained? Because I said so. A radio crackled. Another voice laughed. Then silence. The officer spoke again. You got a green card? Yes. Where is it? At home. The officer raised an eyebrow. That's a problem. Miguel swallowed. I don't carry it daily. That's not required. According to who? Federal guidance, Miguel said. The officer stared at him. Long hard. You telling me how to do my job? No, sir. I'm answering. The officer turned away. Pretended to check the cruiser computer. Miguel's phone buzzed. He didn't touch it. Don't even think about it, the officer said. Minutes passed. Maybe 5. Maybe 20. Miguel's mind drifted to his classroom. Whiteboard. Chairs in a circle. Students asking real questions. Am I safe if I apply? Can they stop me for my accent? He had answers for them. Right now, he had none for himself. The officer came back. You ever been stopped before? Yes. For what? Existing, Miguel said before he could stop himself. The officer's eyes hardened. You want to make this worse? Miguel shook his head. No. Good. Because I can call this in. Call what in? Suspicion. Miguel felt his stomach drop. Suspicion of what? The officer smiled. Thin. You know. Miguel looked around. Cameras on stores. Buses pulling up. Leaving. Officer, Miguel said, voice steady. Am I free to go? The officer didn't answer. He spoke into the radio instead. Low. Muffled. Miguel caught one word. Supervisor. The officer ended the call and looked at him. Sit back down. Miguel Saturday. His phone buzzed again. He saw the preview. Students waiting. The officer watched him read it. You teach people about rights, the officer said. Today you learn about patience. Miguel felt something crack. Not loud. Deep. Am I being charged? Miguel asked. The officer shook his head. Not yet. Red and blue lights flashed again. This time, another cruiser pulled in. And Miguel understood. This was no longer about papers. It was about power. The second cruiser parked too close. Metal to metal. No space. A taller officer stepped out. Older. Calm face. Sharp eyes. What do we got? He asked. Possible status issue, the first officer said. Guy won't cooperate. Miguel looked up. I've cooperated fully. The tall officer glanced at him, then at the curb, then at the lunch bag. Name? Miguel Alvarez. You got ID? Yes. He has it. The tall officer nodded. All right. He turned to the first officer. Why's he still here? Reasonable suspicion. Miguel felt his jaw tighten. That phrase again. Clean words. Dirty use. Suspicion of what? Miguel asked. The tall officer raised a hand. Sir, we're talking. Miguel went quiet. Silence stretched. That was part of it. Letting it stretch. The tall officer spoke slowly. You say you're an instructor? Yes. In immigration? Yes. The tall officer tilted his head. That's ironic. Miguel didn't smile. It's my job. Then you know the rules, the tall officer said. People are required to verify status when asked. Miguel met his eyes. With federal officers. Not local police. The first officer scoffed. Hear that? He's a lawyer now. Miguel stayed calm. I teach what's written. The tall officer looked at the cruiser. Let's take him in. Verify everything. Miguel stood. Am I under arrest? No, the tall officer said. Just a check. I don't consent to. Sir, the tall officer cut in. This will go easier if you don't make it difficult. Miguel felt the words press down on him. Easier. For who? He looked around. People watched from the bus windows. No one spoke. Can I call my attorney? Miguel asked. After, the first officer said. Hands guided him toward the back seat. Not rough. Not gentle. Just firm enough. Inside the cruiser, the door shut. The sound was final. The city slid by through tinted glass. Miguel counted breaths again. At the station, fluorescent lights hummed. Shoes squeaked. Phones rang. They sat him at a metal table. Wait here, the tall officer said. Minutes turned thick. Miguel's phone buzzed in his pocket. He couldn't reach it. A younger officer passed by. Looked at Miguel. Looked away. Finally, the tall officer returned with a folder. So, he said, sitting. Green card instructor. Yes. You train people how to stay. I train them to follow the law. The tall officer opened the folder. Closed it. You ever think about how that looks? Miguel frowned. How what looks? Helping people like you. There it was. Soft. Wrapped. Clear. People like me. Miguel asked. The tall officer didn't answer. The first officer leaned on the wall. Smiling. You got a lot of opinions for someone without papers on him, he said. Miguel felt anger flash. He swallowed it. My card exists whether I carry it or not. The tall officer sighed. We're going to need to confirm that. How long? Miguel asked. As long as it takes. Miguel's phone buzzed again. Then stopped. Can I notify my workplace? Later. My students are waiting. The first officer laughed. They'll survive. Miguel felt the weight of that laugh. Dismissive. Certain. He leaned back. Closed his eyes for 1 second. When he opened them, a woman stood in the doorway. Suit. Badge on a chain. Internal affairs. Miguel asked, hopeful. The tall officer shook his head quickly. Not for you. She whispered to him. He nodded. Once. When she left, the tall officer's tone changed. Smoother. We're moving you to a holding room. For verification, Miguel said. Yes. Am I free to leave after? The tall officer paused. Just long enough. Depends what we find. Miguel stood as they guided him again. Down a hallway. Past closed doors. In the holding room, the air was colder. The door shut. Not locked. Yet. The tall officer stood outside the glass. You teach rights, he said through the door. This is part of the system. Miguel stared at him. No. This is abuse. The tall officer's face hardened. Careful. Miguel Saturday. Alone. Hours passed. Or maybe one. Finally, footsteps. A different man appeared. Older. Grey hair. Confident walk. I'm Sergeant Collins, he said. I hear there's an issue. Miguel stood. Yes. I've been detained without cause. Collins glanced at the report. Then at Miguel. You really teach immigration law? Yes. Collins nodded slowly. Interesting. He looked at the officers. We'll review the footage. Miguel's heart jumped. Footage. Collins didn't answer. He turned away. The door stayed closed. And Miguel realized something else was now at stake. Not just his freedom, but the truth. The holding room smelled like bleach and old air. Miguel sat with his hands folded. Still. Calm on the outside. Loud inside. The door opened. Sergeant Collins stepped in. Closed it behind him. You teach immigration law, Collins said. Yes. Where? East River Community College. Collins nodded. Night classes. Miguel looked up. You know that? I know the area, Collins said. I know the people. That word again. Why am I still here? Miguel asked. Collins didn't answer right away. He sat across from him. You help people apply for green cards, Collins said. Citizenship. I teach the legal process, Miguel said. I don't file papers for them. Collins leaned back. But you guide them. I educate them. Collins smiled. Not kind. Not cruel. Neutral. You ever tell them what to do if they get stopped by police? Miguel felt his chest tighten. Yes. What do you tell them? Miguel paused. He chose each word. I tell them to stay calm. To ask if they are free to go. To know their rights. Collins nodded slowly. And if they don't have papers on them? I tell them that documents don't define legality, Miguel said. Status does. Collins looked at him. Hard. That's a dangerous lesson, he said. Miguel shook his head. It's a lawful one. Silence pressed between them. Miguel's mind drifted. A classroom. Folding chairs. 20 faces. Nervous. Hopeful. Sir, a woman once asked, if I speak, will they hear my accent? Miguel had smiled then. Your accent is not a crime. He wondered where she was now. Collins tapped the table. You remember what you said to Officer Reed? Yes. You corrected him. I answered. Collins raised an eyebrow. Same thing, to some people. Miguel felt anger spark. He kept his voice steady. Respect goes both ways. Collins leaned forward. Not in this room. Miguel swallowed. You think we don't see patterns? Collins said. Bus stops. Night classes. Groups. Education isn't a pattern, Miguel said. It's a service. Collins stood. Some would disagree. He opened the door. Wait here. Miguel was alone again. Minutes passed. Footsteps returned. 2 sets. Officer Reed stood behind Collins. Arms crossed. Reed smiled. Small world, he said. Miguel didn't respond. Collins held a tablet. We reviewed some footage. Miguel's heart jumped. Body cam. Reed's smile faded. Audio only. Miguel leaned forward. And Collins pressed play. Miguel heard his own voice. Calm. Controlled. Then Reed's voice. Complaints about illegals. The word hung in the room. Reed shifted. Context matters. Miguel looked at Collins. Does it? Collins stopped the audio. We're still reviewing. Miguel stood. That language is biased. It created false suspicion. Reed scoffed. Oh, come on. Miguel turned to him. You labeled me before you asked. Reed stepped closer. You looked suspicious. Because I exist. Miguel asked. Collins raised a hand. Enough. He looked at Miguel. You said you train people. Yes. You ever train law enforcement? Miguel blinked. What? Workshops. Community outreach. Miguel nodded slowly. Yes. Twice last year. Reed froze. You trained cops. Miguel met his eyes. On immigration law. Reed laughed. Sharp. That's hilarious. Collins wasn't laughing. Which departments? Collins asked. Miguel hesitated. Then said it. This one. Silence fell. Reed's face drained. That's not true. Miguel's voice stayed steady. Room B. Last spring. 30 officers. Collins stared at Reed. You attend that? Reed looked away. I don't remember. Miguel felt the shift. Small, but real. Collins nodded slowly. Interesting. He turned to Miguel. Who invited you? The city, Miguel said. Community partnership. Reed snapped. This is getting off track. Miguel looked at him. No, it's finally on track. Collins closed the tablet. We'll need to verify that. Miguel nodded. You can call the dean. Reed clenched his jaw. Collins sighed. For now, you're still here. Miguel's shoulders dropped. Why? Collins met his eyes. Because this is bigger than a stop. Reed stepped back. He's playing games. Miguel shook his head. I'm telling the truth. Collins turned to Reed. Leave us. Reed hesitated. Then left. Collins lowered his voice. If what you're saying checks out. He didn't finish. Miguel waited. Collins straightened. We'll continue in the morning. Miguel's heart sank. You're keeping me. For now. He opened the door. As Miguel was led out, he heard Collins say one last thing. Mr. Alvarez, this department doesn't like being taught. The door closed behind him, and Miguel knew the lesson wasn't over. The hallway was long and too bright. Miguel walked between two officers. No cuffs. No kindness. Doors lined the walls. All closed. They placed him on a bench outside a small room. No sign. No clock. Sit, one officer said. Miguel Saturday. Footsteps faded. The silence was loud. It pressed into his ears. Into his chest. He checked his breathing. Slow. Controlled. A woman walked past. Suit. Clipboard. She glanced at him. Looked away. Miguel's phone buzzed in his pocket. Again. Then stopped. Hours blurred. Finally, the door across from him opened. A man stepped out. Dark suit. Loose tie. Tired eyes. Mr. Alvarez. Yes. I'm Daniel Price. Public defender. Miguel stood too fast. Thank you for coming. Price nodded. I came as soon as they allowed it. Which was? Just now. Miguel exhaled. They sat in the small room. A camera in the corner. Red light blinking. Price leaned in. They say you're not charged. Then why am I here? Price smiled without humor. Because detained sounds nicer. Miguel nodded. They stopped me without cause. I read the report, Price said. They say reasonable suspicion. Miguel laughed once. Sharp. Of what? Price shrugged. That's the trick. They don't have to say. Miguel clenched his hands. They used biased language. On camera. Price's eyes sharpened. What language? Miguel lowered his voice. He called me illegal. Price's jaw tightened. That's important. Will it matter? Miguel asked. Price hesitated. Just a beat too long. It should, he said carefully. A knock at the door. Sergeant Collins stepped in. Calm face. Controlled voice. How's our guest? Collins asked. Unlawfully held, Price said. Collins smiled thinly. We're verifying information. You've had hours, Price said. Release him or charge him. Collins folded his arms. We're still reviewing footage. Miguel looked up. You already heard it. Collins met his eyes. Context matters. Miguel leaned forward. Then play all of it. Collins didn't respond. Price stood. My client is a lawful permanent resident. You have no basis. Collins nodded. That may be true. Then this becomes administrative. Miguel frowned. Administrative what? Collins's tone softened. Process. Price snapped. Process without cause is abuse. Collins's smile faded. What's your tone? Miguel felt heat rise again. You said you'd verify my training work, Miguel said. We did, Collins replied. Miguel's heart jumped. And? Collins glanced at Price. He did teach here. Price raised his eyebrows. So you detained your own consultant. Collins didn't answer. Miguel stood. Then let me go. Collins sighed. It's not that simple. Miguel laughed. Bitter. It never is. Collins leaned in. Lowered his voice. There's concern about how this looks. To who? Miguel asked. To the department. Price crossed his arms. So you're protecting yourselves. Collins straightened. We're managing impact. Miguel shook his head. At my expense. A radio crackled outside. Laughter followed. Collins stepped back. We'll need a bit more time. Price stepped closer. If he's not released soon, we escalate. Collins nodded. That's your right. Miguel watched him leave. The door closed. The red light blinked. Price turned to Miguel. They are nervous. About what? About the footage. Miguel swallowed. They can bury it. Price shook his head. Not easily. Body cam is public record. Miguel felt a flicker of hope. But, Price added, they can delay. Miguel leaned back. Exhaustion hit him hard. My students, Miguel said softly. They are waiting. Price nodded. I know. Another knock. A younger officer poked his head in. Sergeant wants to see you. Price stood. I'm coming. The officer hesitated. Just him. Price's jaw tightened. No. Collins's voice came from the hall. It's fine. He can come. They walked down the hallway again. Slower this time. In Collins's office, blinds half closed, the air felt heavy. Collins Saturday gestured for them to sit. We've received a call, Collins said. Miguel's heart skipped. From who? Collins glanced at a file. A reporter. Price smiled slightly. That was fast. Collins's tone hardened. This didn't need to go that far. Miguel stared at him. I didn't call anyone. Collins studied him. Someone did. Silence fell again. Price leaned in. So what now? Collins exhaled. Now we follow procedure. Miguel asked, which one? Collins didn't answer. He stood. You'll be released tonight. Miguel's chest loosened. Thank you. But, Collins added, this isn't over. Miguel met his eyes. It never is. As they walked out, Price whispered, they are scared. Miguel nodded. So am I. At the exit, the doors opened. Cold night I rushed in. Miguel stepped outside. Free. But as he looked back at the building, he knew something had changed. The silence was breaking. And when it did, it would be loud. Miguel didn't sleep. The ceiling fan turned slow. Each click felt loud. His phone lay on the table. Silent now. Too silent. At 6:12 a.m., it buzzed. Unknown number. Mr. Alvarez. Yes. This is internal affairs. Miguel sat up. Okay. We'd like you to come in. For what? To review footage. Miguel closed his eyes. When? Today. By noon, he was back in the building. Different floor. Different smell. Less bleach. More coffee. A woman met him at the door. Short hair. Flat voice. I'm Investigator Han. They walked into a small room. No badge on the wall. Just a screen. Han gestured to a chair. You can have counsel. Miguel shook his head. I want to hear it. Han pressed a button. The screen stayed dark. The audio began. Reed's voice. Casual. Confident. Hey, stop right there. Miguel heard his own reply. Calm. Polite. The moment played again. Every pause louder now. Then the word. Illegals. Miguel flinched. Even now. Han paused the audio. How did that make you feel? Miguel stared at the black screen. Targeted. Han nodded. Anything else? Reduced, Miguel said. Like nothing I said mattered. Han pressed play again. Reed's laugh. The smirk in his voice. Sure you are. Miguel clenched his jaw. Han stopped it. Did his tone change after you said your job? Yes. How? Dismissive. Defensive. Han took notes. They listened to the whole stop. No interruptions. No explanations. When it ended, the room felt empty. Han folded her hands. The officer claims context. Miguel looked at her. What context makes that word acceptable? Han didn't answer. Is this a violation? Miguel asked. Han chose her words carefully. It may be. Miguel laughed softly. May. Han stood. We'll continue review. Outside the room, voices carried. Media's already asking. We say ongoing investigation. Miguel walked past them. In the lobby, a camera flashed. Mr. Alvarez, a reporter called. Did the officer call you illegal? Miguel froze. Han stepped in front of him. No comments. Miguel kept walking. By evening, his phone wouldn't stop. Students. Colleagues. Unknown numbers. A message from the dean, we support you. Another from a student, sir, I heard what happened. Are you okay? Miguel typed back, I'm here. That night, he watched the news. A blurred clip. No audio. The anchor spoke carefully. An internal review is underway. Miguel turned it off. The next morning, Reed's face was everywhere. Statement released. My words were taken out of context. Miguel felt something twist. He called Price. They are spinning it, Miguel said. They always do, Price replied. But the tape exists. What if they bury it? They can't, Price said. Public record laws. Miguel looked out the window. They'll try. 2 days later, Han called again. The audio will be released. Miguel's breath caught. All of it? Yes. The clip went live at noon. No blur. No filter. Just sound. The word hit the airwaves like glass breaking. Social media exploded. Some defended Reed. He was just doing his job. Others didn't. Miguel stayed offline. That evening, Reed appeared on TV. I regret my phrasing, Reed said. But I stand by my actions. Miguel laughed. Hollow. His phone buzzed. A message from Collins. We need to talk. Miguel stared at it, then deleted it. Outside, sirens passed. Same sound. Different meaning now. Miguel sat at his table. Papers spread out. Lesson plans. Tomorrow, he'd teach again. But tonight, he listened to the silence after the tape. It wasn't empty. It was waiting. The classroom was full. Too full. Miguel stood at the front, hands resting on the desk. Faces looked up at him. Some familiar. Some new. Some scared. No one spoke. Then a student raised her hand. Young. Nervous. Sir, she said, is it safe to talk today? Miguel felt the question land deep. Yes, he said. This room is safe. Another hand went up. Will they stop us too? Miguel paused. He didn't lie. I don't know, he said. But you should know your rights. The door opened softly. The dean stepped in. Whispered to Miguel. Media's outside. Miguel nodded. Class ended early. Outside, cameras waited. Microphones pointed like fingers. Mr. Alvarez, do you feel justice is being served? Are you afraid of retaliation? Miguel stopped. He looked straight ahead. I teach the law, he said. I believe in it. Then he walked away. That night, his sister called. They showed your face, she said. Over and over. Miguel closed his eyes. I know. You didn't do anything wrong. I know, he said again. But his voice shook. Online, the comments split. His exaggerating. The cop was right. Go back where you came from. Miguel didn't read them. Price did. They are setting the narrative, Price said over the phone. We need to file. A lawsuit. Yes. Miguel hesitated. I don't want this to be about money. It won't be, Price said. It'll be about record. The word mattered. 2 days later, they filed. Unlawful detention. Discriminatory language. Abuse of authority. The department responded within hours. The officer followed protocol. Miguel felt his chest tighten. Protocol again. Reed was placed on administrative leave. With pay. Miguel stood in his kitchen when he heard that. With pay, he whispered. Price nodded. Standard. Miguel laughed bitterly. Standard for who? That evening, Miguel noticed a cruiser parked across the street. Lights off. Engine running. He didn't go outside. At work, attendance dropped. Fear spread faster than facts. One student stayed behind. Sir, he said, my uncle told me to stop coming. Miguel swallowed. I understand. But I won't, the student added. Because of you. Miguel looked away. A week later, Internal Affairs released findings. Policy concerns, they called it. Not violations. Concerns. Reed returned to duty. Miguel watched the press conference live. Reed stood straight. Calm. Confident. I never intended harm, Reed said. I respect the community. Miguel turned off the TV. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. You think you won, a voice said. Miguel froze. Who is this? The line went dead. That night, Miguel didn't sleep again. The next morning, Price called. There's another angle, he said. What? You're an expert. Miguel frowned. I already told you. No, Price said. An expert witness. Miguel's heart skipped. In what case? Price paused. Yours. Miguel sat down. They want you to testify, Price continued. On immigration law. On proper procedure. Miguel laughed softly. Against them. Yes. Miguel thought of Reed's face. Of the word. Of the curb. If I do this, Miguel said, they'll come harder. Price didn't deny it. Yes. Miguel looked at his lesson plans. His students' names. Then I'll do it, he said. The hearing was set fast. Room full. Quiet buzz. Reed sat across the room. No smile this time. Miguel took the stand. State your occupation, the clerk said. I am a green card instructor, Miguel said. A murmur rippled. Did the officer have authority to question your status? the attorney asked. No, Miguel said clearly. Why not? Miguel took a breath. Because suspicion based on appearance is not lawful. Reed stayed at the table. Miguel continued. Words matter. They create cause where none exists. The room stayed silent. After, Reed passed him in the hallway. You made me look bad, Reed muttered. Miguel stopped. You did that yourself. Reed leaned in. This isn't over. Miguel met his eyes. For you, maybe. Outside, the sun was bright. Too bright. Reporters shouted. Miguel didn't stop. He felt fear. Yes. But also something else. Resolve. The record was changing. And this time, it had his voice. The room felt smaller than it looked. Wooden benches. High ceiling. Flags on the wall. Miguel sat at the table marked expert witness. The word felt heavy. Across the room, Officer Reed sat in uniform. Back straight. Face blank. Miguel avoided his eyes. Mr. Alvarez, the judge said, you may begin. Miguel stood. His hands shook once. Then steadied. I teach immigration law, he said. I teach what the law allows and what it does not. The department's attorney leaned forward. You're not a lawyer. No, Miguel said. I'm an instructor certified by the state. So you interpret the law, the attorney said. I teach written policy, Miguel replied. There's a difference. A murmur moved through the room. The attorney paced. Isn't it true that officers need discretion? Yes, Miguel said. Not bias. Reed shifted in his chair. Miguel continued. Discretion must be based on behavior. Not skin. Not accent. Not assumptions. The attorney stopped. Are you saying Officer Reed is racist? Miguel paused. He chose his words carefully. I'm saying his actions followed a biased pattern. The judge nodded. Proceed. Miguel took a breath. In training, he said, we tell officers one thing very clearly. Local police do not enforce federal immigration status. Reed's jaw tightened. When an officer uses language like illegal, Miguel said, it creates fear. It escalates encounters. It turns a stop into a threat. The department's attorney scoffed. Words don't detain people. Miguel looked at him. Power does. Silence followed. The attorney changed tactics. You've worked with this department before. Yes. You were paid. Yes. So you benefited from the relationship. Miguel nodded. Yes. And now you're attacking it. Miguel's voice stayed calm. I'm correcting it. Reed stood suddenly. This is unfair. The judge raised a hand. Sit down, officer. Reed Saturday. His face was red. The attorney leaned in. Mr. Alvarez, you admit you didn't have your green card on you. Yes. Isn't that suspicious? Miguel looked at the judge. Then back. No, he said. It's legal. The attorney smiled. According to you. According to federal guidance, Miguel said. Which I can cite. He did. Page numbers. Policy names. Dates. The room grew quiet. When Miguel finished, he sat down slowly. Reed was called next. He walked to the stand. Confident again. I was doing my job, Reed said. The man acted nervous. Miguel clenched his hands. Did you know who he was? The attorney asked. No. So you couldn't have targeted him. Miguel looked up. The judge turned to Reed. Did you use the word illegal? Reed hesitated. In context. What context? The judge asked. Reed swallowed. Community complaints. Miguel leaned forward. The judge frowned. Complaints about whom? Reed didn't answer. The judge pressed. Answer the question. Reed looked at the floor. People who look undocumented. A sharp inhale filled the room. The judge leaned back. That is not a category. Reed's attorney objected. Too late. The judge waved it off. We will review the evidence, the judge said. Including audio. Miguel's heart pounded. Reed returned to his seat. He didn't look at Miguel. During recess, Price leaned over. That answer hurt him. Miguel whispered, Is it enough? Price didn't smile. It matters. The hearing ended without a decision. As people filed out, Reed brushed past Miguel. You think you're a hero, Reed said under his breath. Miguel stopped. I think words matter. Reed laughed. Let's see what the ruling says. Outside, rain had started. Reporters waited again. Do you expect accountability? One shouted. Miguel paused under the doorway. I expect truth, he said. Inside the building, behind closed doors, decisions were being made. Careers. Policies. Reputations. Miguel walked into the rain. He didn't know the verdict yet. But he knew one thing. Whatever came next would change everything. The email arrived at 7:04 a.m. Subject line, Department Findings, Confidential. Miguel stared at it for a long moment before opening it. His coffee went cold. After review of audio, testimony, and departmental policy, the words blurred. He forced himself to slow down. Policy violations substantiated. Miguel exhaled. Not relief. Not yet. Use of biased language. Improper detention. Failure to follow scope of authority. His hands trembled. The phone rang. Price, Miguel said. You saw it, Price replied. Yes. They sustained it. Miguel closed his eyes. What does that mean? It means discipline, Price said. Real discipline. At noon, the press conference aired live. Miguel didn't want to watch. He did anyway. Sergeant Collins stood at the podium. Same calm face. Different tone. After careful review, Collins said, we acknowledge procedural failures. Miguel leaned forward. Officer Reed will be removed from patrol duties pending retraining and reassignment. Removed. Not fired. Miguel felt the weight settle. A reporter asked, is this accountability? Collins paused. It's corrective action. Miguel laughed quietly. Bitter. His phone buzzed again. A message from a student. Sir, does this mean it worked? Miguel typed slowly. It means they couldn't ignore it. That afternoon, Reed's lawyer released a statement. Officer Reed disagrees with the findings. Miguel expected that. What he didn't expect was the next call. Mr. Alvarez. Yes. This is the City Council office. Miguel sat down. We're reviewing departmental training, the voice said. We'd like your input. Miguel swallowed. In what role? As an advisor. Advisor. He thought of the curb. The word. The laughter. I'll consider it, Miguel said. That night, he returned to class. Attendance was higher than it had been in weeks. Students clapped when he walked in. Miguel raised his hands. Please. He waited until the room settled. I want to be clear, he said. This outcome doesn't erase harm. Faces nodded. It doesn't make fear disappear. More nods. But it shows something important. A student spoke up. That they listened. Miguel shook his head. That they were forced to. Silence followed. After class, Miguel packed his bag slowly. A man waited near the door. Middle-aged. Nervous. I'm Officer Hernandez, he said quietly. I was at that training you taught. Miguel looked at him. Yes. I wanted to say, I'm sorry. Miguel studied his face. Sincerity showed. So did fear. Thank you, Miguel said. Hernandez hesitated. Not everyone agrees with what happened. Miguel nodded. I know. But some of us are listening now, Hernandez added. Miguel watched him leave. At home, Miguel opened the official report. Read every page. Footnotes. Policies. Language. The word illegal appeared once. Labeled, inappropriate terminology. Miguel underlined it. Late that night, Price called. They are offering settlement talks, he said. Miguel leaned back. Money won't fix this. No, Price agreed. But policy changes might. Miguel stared at the ceiling fan again. Same clicks. Different weight. What do you want? Price asked. Miguel thought of his students. Of the phone call. Of the holding room. I want it on record, Miguel said. All of it. Price smiled through the phone. Then we push. Outside, the city hummed. Normal. Unaware. Miguel sat at his desk and began rewriting a lesson. New slide. New title. When authority crosses the line. He paused before saving. This wasn't the end. But it was a line drawn. And this time, it stayed. The courtroom was quiet. Sunlight spilled across the polished floor. Miguel sat at the plaintiff's table. Price beside him. Files stacked neatly. Reed entered, uniform crisp. No arrogance this time. Just tension. The judge cleared her throat. We are ready to issue findings. Miguel's chest tightened. The words came slowly, measured. Officer Reed's actions constituted improper detention. Use of biased language violated departmental policy and civil rights guidelines. Corrective action is warranted. Miguel felt a release. Not relief. Not fully. But a shift. Reed's shoulders slumped. No words. Only the tight set of his jaw. Outside the courtroom, reporters crowded. Questions shouted. Miguel faced them calmly. Accountability is not easy. It carries cost. For all involved. Some nodded. Some scribbled. Some recorded. His phone buzzed. Messages from students and colleagues. Support. Concern. Gratitude. He paused at one. Sir, thank you for standing up. Miguel smiled faintly. The weight of months condensed into that line. At home, the silence was different now. No red and blue lights outside. No flashing cameras. Just quiet. But his thoughts were loud. He thought of the curb. The bus stop. The smell of wet concrete. The officer's voice. The word that had haunted him. He thought of internal affairs. Of Price. Of Collins. Of every moment that demanded patience, resilience, courage. He opened a folder. Lesson plans. Notes for tomorrow. His students waiting. And he felt the sting of change. Justice had been served. But it was not painless. The victory was quiet, steady, heavy. Miguel walked to his classroom the next morning. Faces lit up when they saw him. Good morning, sir. Sir, are you okay? Yes, we missed you. He nodded. Smiled. Kept the words for himself. The lesson began. Immigration law, rights, civics. And as he spoke, he saw understanding. Empowerment. Hope. Later, in the dean's office, Price waited. They'll appeal? Miguel asked. Probably, Price said. But the record is clear. You've set precedent. Miguel leaned back. Thought of the months of tension, fear, uncertainty. What did it cost me? He asked softly. Everything, Price said. And that's why it matters. Miguel smiled faintly. Not proud. Not triumphant. Realistic. Human. Weary. Resilient. At home that evening, he looked out the window. City alive. Unaware. Indifferent. And yet, he had changed something. A name on record. A policy. A story. A lesson. He closed the blinds. Sat in quiet. And understood that survival was not enough. Justice carried a cost. Courage carried a cost. Truth carried a cost. But they were worth paying. And Miguel Alvarez, green card instructor, teacher, survivor, knew he would continue paying it. Because someone had to. Because words mattered. Because rights mattered. Because people mattered. The story ended here, but its echoes would remain.